Hello, this is Steve with Red Transit Consultants, here to discuss the Pipe Network Tools app available on the Autodesk App Store. Upon installation, you'll get a new ribbon called Pipe Network Tools, you can see here. On this Pipe Network Tools is a number of new commands that will give you a lot of power over pipe networks, allowing you to quickly make your modifications, rename, find different things, swap multiple parts, and do a number of things that the capabilities aren't quite there in the software. So beginning, just to state a couple of things, there are two apps that I have out on the App Store that are built into this app that are being sold separately, and that is the Slope Across Pipes app and the Network Quantities Label app. Those two apps are related to pipe networks, so I felt that I should just include them into this bundle of tools. So to begin, I'm going to just kind of quickly cover the Network Quantities Label app. And what this is a gathering quantities based on the part descriptions, and then you can gather your information about the parts. So for quantities, we're dealing with the lengths of the pipe. So I've given all four options of lengths of pipe. Simply clicking one of these will pull in every network that's in your drawing, and it'll list it out. So it says that there's a number of 3 networks in this drawing. And the first one we're dealing with is storm, and it'll tell you the structure count is 12, and then it uses the description of each part to total up the lengths. And if you switch to, say, inside edges, you can see the numbers will update to the inside edge length. But the nice part is it separates out your 18-inch pipe and your 24-inch pipe. Additionally, it will do the same thing for structures using the descriptions. If you count the structures, it will tell you that you have 1 head wall structure and 11 eccentric 48-inch diameter structures. From there, you can set a layer, set a style for your M-text, and then report it in all caps if you want. Set a size and drop a label in your drawing that has that information on it as well. So that's network quantities. Modify part references allows for quickly modifying your pipe and structure references. So if we go into a pipe, the reference surface and reference alignment, and that command will allow you to make those adjustments quickly and easily. All of the tools on the pipe network tool will, where possible, will work like this command. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And what I've given are 3 different selection methods to select your objects. You have by network, so if you pick a pipe or a structure, it's going to get the network and then gather all the pipes and structures inside of that network. Multiple will just allow you to pick objects on screen, 1 or 10 objects on screen. They do need to be in the same network to make the edits, typically. The command will tell you if it's not, if that is necessary. And then the last one is path. Path will return, it allows you to pick a start structure or pipe and then an end structure or pipe, and then it will return the shortest distance between those 2 objects in the same network and all of the pipes and structures in between those objects. So if you wanted to do just one pipe run from here all the way to here, it would collect all the structures and pipes inside that run. Just a quick way to get your information. For the modify part references example, I'm just going to use the network. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a pipe, and I'm going to pick, let's modify the alignment, and then down in the command line it's going to allow you to pick on screen, enter to select none to set it to default, or to no reference alignment, or you can go by dialog, and in the dialog you can select none, or you can select a different alignment. I'm going to say the road 1, and if I get into my pipe, you can see the road 1 has been updated there. Let's go ahead and do the network again, and we'll go by surface. And I'm just going to hit enter to select none at this point. I want to clear out the surface reference in that alignment. Pipe properties, you can see it's set it to none. So that's the modify part references. The next one is rename parts. So out of the box, Civil 3D does give you the ability to set up a naming convention of Civil 3D objects. We can do that with structures and pipes. But if you're familiar with laying out pipes and whatnot, you know, that naming convention needs to be edited in the end to keep your drawing organized. And so a lot of times I find myself, and other users can relate, to going into your tool space and then into your network and structures or pipes, and then going through here one by one and kind of naming them that way or naming them on screen, which works, but you know, why not have a easier command to do this? And that's kind of where this developed. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And again, I'm going to just do by network. I just want to do the whole storm network. And it's going to tell you that you have 12 structures and 11 pipes in your selection. That's in the entire network. So when you're renaming, you have the ability to include structures or include pipes. So if you don't want to mess with those, you can not include them. And let's just say I like to number my manholes or structures just with numbers. But you do have the ability to come in and say the reference alignment name or reference surface name if you want, as well as the other items that are given out of the box with Civil 3D. And it works very similar to the Civil 3D naming convention. So I'm just going to say next counter here, drop that in, and I'm going to set my starting number at 100, and I'm just going to increment by 1. And it will go through and rename my structures accordingly. And it will look to see if there are going to be discrepancies between names, because objects cannot have the same name. So it will verify that there aren't any, if there are any issues with that. So you can see it's gone through and done that. Now, when I selected by network, it was a completely random selection, so the numbers may be a little jumbled around here, but you get the idea of what the capabilities are. I'm going to rename my pipes now. Go in and let's just do one pipe. So I'm going to pick multiple, and I just want to demonstrate the power of this, because I typically like to name my pipes with the connecting downstream and upstream structures, just so that I can see that in my tool space easier, and when I'm looking at pipes and pipe tables and things like that, I can easily see that information. So I'm going to uncheck my structures and just include my pipes, and then I've kind of got a label in here that I was messing around with. I'm going to clear that out, and you can see you got more options in here. You have your reference surface alignment, your typical Civil 3D options, and then you have the ability to tie in the upstream and downstream structures. So it's always a good idea to include the next counter in here as well, just because the duplicate name issue. And I'll go ahead and start it at 100. And then I'm going to say my upstream structure, so I'm going to put up, and let's put a bracket, insert bracket, and then we'll say down, so you can build this however you want, whatever you want to do, and then we'll say rename. And if I look at that pipe, you can see that it's gone through and put 109 and 110 in there for the name. So you can get a lot of different numberings in there to off of one big collection, if you will, that it will go through and name all that to help with your organization of your drawing. So the next one is swap multiple parts. This is one I've seen a number of people asking for out there. So again, running this command gives you the ability to work off of the entire network. selecting a few on screen, or selecting a path, a specific run if you wanted to change out just this one run here. So let's go by network, and let's say I know my entire network is going to be 12-inch concrete pipe, so I can go ahead and pick that. It's showing you how many structures and how many pipes you have in your selection. The way that this works is the current tab that you have selected is what's going to be switched. So if I'm on the pipes tab and I hit swap, it's going to swap out only pipes. Nothing is selected on the structures tab and it's not current, so it's not going to switch that. So you do have to kind of go back and forth between the two tabs when you want to switch things out. So if I want to switch all my pipes to 12, I'll go ahead and say swap, and you see that 11 pipes have been swapped, and you can see that the description in the drawing has been updated as well. In the structures, let's say I want to switch this out to rectangular. Now I can swap out those, and that is complete. One other thing I added in here for those users that like to modify their part descriptions for their Civil 3D labels. By default, Civil 3D changes the part description with the default out-of-the-box swap parts. So I gave the ability to maintain descriptions on those pipes to maintain your labels. So you can swap out a part size and not have to worry about your part description changing and affecting your labels. So that's kind of a nice little feature there. Now if I want to switch out this run, let's look at the part size just to demonstrate that did change. As you can see, it's 12-inch concrete pipe. But let's say upstream of this, we have all this structure coming in. I know that needs to be 18-inch. Let's go ahead and use path. I'm going to pick this structure and this structure, and let's just switch that to 18. So 4 pipes have been swapped out. So you can see that's pulling in the right data. So if I came in here and I wanted to call this RCP pipe, let's just say, in my description on that one pipe, and I do my swap parts, I'm just going to use multiple for this. Select the one, and let's just switch it to a 4-inch PVC, let's say, and I check my maintain descriptions and swap. You can see it's changed, but it did maintain that description for you. So it's a nice feature for those that are using their descriptions to help facilitate their Civil 3D labels. The next two commands on here are this slope across pipes app, the pipe slope single and the pipe slope multiple. Pipe slope single allows you to just adjust one pipe by itself, and it's meant for more like road culverts or Ys, or I mean, you can use it on a run as well. It's really not going to matter. But the way that it works is if I run this command, let's go into the settings first. So what you have in your settings is how it's going to operate. So it's going to slope and set elevations by crown, centerline, or invert, whatever you choose. So if I pick invert, and then slope form, do you want to do it in percentage or decimal? And I'll say OK. And then it gives you two modes, slope mode and elevation mode. So slope mode, you can control the slope, or the elevation mode, you might want to enter in the elevation on either end and have it calculate out the slope for you. So you've got both those options. So if I say slope, it's going to work off of the desired end that I hold. So if I pick this end, it's going to grab this end and maintain, set the slope from this end. Same goes if I select that end. It does not care what the start point is of the pipe or the end point of the pipe is. It solely works off of which end you select, and then it automatically deciphers which is the start and the end to set that. So that is helpful. So I'll pick this end, and it's telling you that end is the start. So but I can set this elevation to 645 exactly, and then I can say I want it to go uphill at 1% from that point, and that pipe would then be adjusted based off of that. So you can see 645, 1%, and it's calculated the other end. That's the pipe slope pipe slope single. Pipe slope multiple allows you to do an entire run that way. So if I want to adjust, let's say this run here, I'll go pipe slope multiple, and let's say we want to go off of elevations. I'm going to pick this point here, or that structure, and this structure. You can select the end pipe. It doesn't matter, pipe or structure. It'll gather that collection. The starting invert, it's using this end, the first end that you selected, and it's automatically saying, okay, well right now that's at 622.54 invert. What do you want it? So I'm going to pick, let's say 625. And end invert. So I had run off of elevation, so I can specify a specific elevation over at this end. So if I want that to go uphill, I can tell it 630, let's say. And then it's going to ask also for pipe drops in the structure, so wherever it runs into a structure, it'll add a drop for you if you're doing sanitary sewer. If you have null structures, there is an option on the settings screen to skip null structures. So, you know, if you're applying pipe drops and you want to skip those nulls, it'll skip them for you. So there, it's gone through and calculated 1.28% based on the distance of those two pipes, and then set the invert at the low end, and then gone up by that. And if you take a look at this one here, you can see the 630 is what we typed in. So that's a very helpful tool. You can also do it from the profile view. If you'd like to work off of that. So if we go pipe slope multiple, and let's go by slope here, up to the upper end. So we're at 643 here. Let's set it to 640, and I'm going to go at 2.5%, and let's go ahead and add a half foot drop just so you can see that. So you can see it's quickly making those adjustments for you, and you can see the drop happening in there and all the way upstream. So that's slope across pipes. Adjust pipes to surface gives you the ability to set these pipes to the surface elevations. So if I want to get a kind of a starting point and set my pipes 3 foot below the surface and then work off of that, you can do that with this command. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to use path here and just run off the same two structures, and then I can enter the distance above or below the surface that I want. So let's say -3 foot, and I'm working off the invert. You can work off the crown to help make that decision there, but we'll just go off the invert for this. And then you can select the surface on screen or by dialog. Select my EG surface, and there you can see my pipes have been updated to be 3 foot below the surface. So the way that works is it gets the coordinate of the pipe on the surface and gets that spot elevation, and add or subtracts your number that you entered in to set the invert, centerline, or crown of the pipe. Adjust structure pipe elevation. So this one allows you to control all the pipes coming into a structure at once. So if I have this structure here, and there could be multiple pipes coming in, I can control them all. Let's say I want them all to come in at a specific invert. I can just select this and pick my structure, and I can say, okay, my invert that I want is 640, and all those pipes would then be adjusted inside that structure at that end. It does not adjust the other end, it only adjusts the end that it comes in on the structure. So those are all really helpful commands into laying out your pipe network and getting some rough elevations or even final elevations fairly quickly, rather than having to click on every object and make those edits that way. The next one is set Y connections. So the way this command was designed was that the Y's, my thought would be the Y's would be in a separate network. So here, if I have this Y pipe coming in from a building, let's say, so I've got it in a completely separate network as my storm sewer. But it could be in the same network. I just chose to have it separated, and I don't have any structures here. I just have a pipe. So if I want this pipe to be tying into this, to this main line here, I can take this and just snap to perpendicular, and then I can use my Y command to set that elevation. So if I look at the two pipes, in Object Viewer, you can see they don't interact. So I can use the set Y, and it's going to ask you for your main pipe, and it's going to work off the settings again. So you got to go into settings. Let's say I want the center lines of the two pipes to match up. So I can say center line, say OK, pick my main pipe, select my Y pipes. You can actually pick multiple pipes along this, and it will control all of them. And then I can go ahead and hit that. And it's going to give you the ability to control an elevation above or below of that center line elevation. So just gives you some flexibility there in setting the elevation. So I'm going to say 0, and that pipe has been updated. If I look at Object Viewer right now, you can see that it does tie in, but we don't have the rest of the pipe set yet. So if I use my pipe slope single and go by slope, hold this end, enter, and then I want to go at 1%. Now I can take a look at my Y, and we have a pretty good connection coming in there, and it is holding the center lines. Now those pipes are roughly the same size, so it's working off of that, but will help you to make those adjustments. Now if I come in and use my pipe slope multiple and say slope, and let's say I make a modification here from here up to there, I hold the one invert, and I'm working off the center line grade, so I would have to modify that, but my slope being 2.5%, let's say, no drop. So now this pipe has been changed. So if I look at my Object Viewer, you can see that they're not matching in. But if I go down to Update Y Connections, I've made this to be somewhat dynamic. It's not automatically dynamic. It doesn't automatically trigger if the pipe changes, but you can just use Update, and it does store the information that you typed in at the command line. So if you made an adjustment elevation, it would do that as well. It would make that adjustment. So I'm going to say Update Y Connections, and it automatically searches your drawing for Y connections that have the dynamic feature added to them. And if you saw on the command line, it said that one Y pipe elevation was adjusted. So if I take a look at this in Object Viewer, you can see it did go through and set that back at a different grade. And there's a little bit of discrepancy there just because of the elevations that I've been switching the settings back and forth. So if you work with those consistently, it'll make those adjustments. But I can hold this end now, and you can see that the percentage has changed, so I might have to adjust that to get the slope set, because that does not update dynamically. It's just the connection point that updates. And really the better way to do this, I went to the wall. It would be better to take this right to the center line of that pipe, so turning on your center line and drawing it that way would be the better way of actually doing a Y connection. And typically this is usually a smaller pipe than this coming in too. So, but that's the why. It's kind of nice that it is almost a dynamic command, giving you that ability to quickly update your Ys. The next one is label pipe crossings, and this also is nearly dynamic. You do have to manually update it, but it allows you to label crossings. So if I have a sanitary sewer line crossing my storm sewer, it solely works off of the plan view location to determine what the two inverts of the pipes are here at this location. So if I use that command, you get a dialog, and you can come in, you get the ability to label the crossing in plan view or label in profile view. We'll come back and do this one in a minute. Just do crossing labels, so I can say pipe crossing, and then I can select my higher pipe. What do I want? My center line or my invert labeled? So my higher pipe, I would typically want my invert. My lower pipe, I would probably want my crown. And then you can also label to the outer wall, so it will show that it's your actual outer wall differences. And then you can include separation in feet and inches if you want. So let's just set my precision to 1. What layer do you want the multi-liter on? Multi-liter style, report in all caps, label text height. You can enter these in, and we'll say label. So it doesn't matter which pipe you select first, you just have to pick a pipe. So there's my crossing, and it's going to go ahead and place that multi-liter in there for you directly at that crossing, and list out. And I had my precision set pretty low, so it didn't, didn't round things out. But if I come in again and adjust this elevation of this pipe, let's go from there, and let's say my percentage is 1%, and then I go to update, it will bring up the dialog again, and you can update all crossing liters in your drawing. So it'll find all of these multi-liters that are set up for crossing liters, or you can manually select them if you don't want to update all of them. If you just want one of them to update or something like that, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and leave it set to there. Once you get these settings set, they will remain in your drawing, or consistent across the software, other drawings as well. So resetting this isn't really that time consuming. But I'll say update, and you can see that went through and made the modification there, with the elevations changing. Again, you can do it, label the crossing profile view of that as well. So if I was to select this pipe and this pipe, now it's asking me for my profile view, and it did place a label in there. And you can see that the grip here is pointing down here where that pipe is, but it's not shown in the profile view. The scaling needs to be set from my annotative scale. I just don't have that set in my multi-liter style, but it will scale up. The other two commands here are remove pipe crossing labels. So if you just want to remove all pipe crossing labels from your drawing, you can do that, and you can see it disappeared there. It just finds them all and deletes them all. Removing the X data removes the capability of the dynamic functionality, so it will leave the multi-liter, but it will no longer be dynamic to those pipes. So if you ever need to do that, you can. This X data remove will also work on the Ys. So if I do remove X data, it will remove off of a Y connection and no longer make that dynamic. Modify pipe hydraulic properties. I've seen a few people asking for the ability to control this, but under your pipe you have your flow rate, your junction loss, your return period, some of those settings. So again, this command gives you the ability to work off of a network, multiple, or path. So if I select my network, and I can pick which item I want to update. So if I want my flow rate, I can set that to 2 or some, whatever I want, and then all my pipes in my network will then be updated with my flow rate. And the same goes for the other settings in there. So that is what is currently being distributed with the pipe network tools. I think that these tools will be extremely helpful in producing your pipe network drawings, storm sewer drawings, sanitary drawings, possibly even water main if you're still using pipe networks to do that. I have a few more things in the works that I'm going to be rolling out and updates on this, new commands to add to this bundle. If you have ideas and you'd like to see them implemented, feel free to email me and let me know, and I can see if I can get them worked in if it's something that is definitely worthwhile for everybody. So I appreciate your time watching. Hope you find interest in this app, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.